You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off of you. You'd be like heaven to touch. I wanna hold you so much. At long last love has arrived, and I thank God I'm alive. You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off of you.
I have a dick on my face, don't I?
Hey everybody, welcome. My name is Matt. I'm here with Andrew. Today we're going to be talking about 10 Things I Hate About You, who the main character is, the Shakespearean connections, and why crumb-oats will forever disturb me. So grab your popcorn and Reese's Pieces and let's break it down on the Post Credit Podcast.
Well, that's why I think it was like that, because they were trying to base it off, Taming of the Shrew.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, if you look at that high school, I mean, the director got that high school. Well,
it's actually a high school, too.
Yeah. So, well, today we're going to be talking about 10 Things I Hate About You. This movie came out in 1999 and was a breakout movie for a couple different stars. What stars are those?
Heath Ledger for the main one. This is his first American movie.
First American movie, and it's a Hollywood. It's a studio movie, and he plays the lead in it.
Well,
now, I thought about it, and I was like, Andrew's going to come back on me on this because he always has a problem with who everybody says the lead is, because you have your own ideas on who the lead is in different movies you watch, especially when it's kind of ambiguous, or when you have multiple leads, I guess you'd say. So the movie, the movie starts out with Joseph Gordon-Levitt being the lead, but then about a quarter, maybe halfway through, you realize that he's not the lead, and it's Heath Ledger. Maybe it's Joseph Gordon-Levitt's movie at the beginning, but it's definitely Heath Ledger's movie at the end, as far as being the male lead or whatever.
I disagree.
How do you disagree?
I think it's a Justin Gordon-Levitt movie, like basically at the beginning, and then it's a Julia Stiles movie for the rest of it.
Julia Stiles movie.
Yeah.
I know that the director considers Heath Ledger the lead of the movie, and it's interesting how they kind of flow into that. Now, this is back in the day when generally you had leads that were male, and the females in the movies weren't leads, or they'd be called the female lead or whatever, but they would never usually be called the lead unless it was an obvious, female-driven movie or whatever, but I don't know. I think it's ambiguous. I think it could be taken either way. I think the best way I've found to describe it is Joseph Gordon-Levitt's movie at the beginning and Heath Ledger's at the end, if you want to talk about male leads or whatever. Just because it starts out with him coming to school and, the entire school being explained to him by another character. And so it's really focused on him, and you really get little glances of Heath Ledger as Patrick Verona here and there, but you don't really see him until you don't really get to get a fresh idea of him until Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Cremont. This guy.
You have a silly reason for that.
Yeah, I know, and we'll talk about it. But yeah, he doesn't really get any good screen time until these guys come and approach him and ask him to be part of this thing. Other than that, it's him trying to look intimidating, playing with fire, using the drill thing to go through Cameron's book. Different things like that, when he goes and talks to the counselor, just real quick, and then he heads out and everything. So, it's kind of like this bad boy thing. But then once you get to meet him and then he finds out, okay, I'm going to go and, I'm going to take this deal, then you kind of get a better sense of the inner working. So I guess it could go either way. I guess it could, you could say Joey was... Well, no, you couldn't say Joey.
No, well, I mean, the reason I said Julia Stiles is because they literally go like to the background of her. Like you meet, you find out that that's his sister or that's her sister. and you really got kind of get into the background of her, and then you get to meet her father. You get to go to her house. You're getting well developed into this character because you're finding out all kind of background information. Her mother. You get a backstory with her. You don't get much of a backstory with Heath Ledger.
Yeah.
I mean, not even one with Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character. You don't really get a background with him either. But I mean, it really. That's why I felt like the second half of the movie was all about her.
I suppose with rom-coms, generally the female is considered the lead because rom-coms are targeted toward female audiences and everything. So I guess that makes sense. In anything Molly Ringwald was in the 80s, she was the main character, and you had these guys that there wasn't much to them and everything. It was just another guy to for her to be in love with or whatever. But yeah, I guess that makes sense. I could agree that Julia Stiles is probably the main character of this movie. A lot more of her background dived into. You get to see her family life, see her whole character arc from what she used to be to what she is now. And she reads the poem that the movie's title comes from.
I hate the way you talk to me and the way you cut your hair. I hate the way you drive my car. I hate it when you stare. I hate your big dumb combat boots and the way you read my mind. I hate you so much it makes me sick. It even makes me rhyme. I hate it. I hate the way you're always right. I hate it when you lie. I hate it when you make me laugh. Even worse when you make me cry. I hate it when you're not around and the fact that you didn't call. But mostly I hate the way I don't hate you. Not even close. Not even a little bit. Not even at all.
That's that kind of thing, like there wasn't really any kind of depth to any other character as much as there was for her.
Yeah. Yeah, as I said before, this came out in 1999. It came out at the end of the whole teen movie craze and everything. It was directed by Gil, I don't know if it's Junger or Younger.
Depends
because I know that if it's Jung, it could be pronounced Young.
Yeah.
And then the writers were Karen McCullough and Kristen Smith. As we said before, it stars Heath Ledger as Patrick Verona, Julia Stiles as Kat Strafford, Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Cameron James, Larissa Olenek, David Krumholtz,
You probably didn't say that right?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Andrew Keegan, Susan May Pratt, Gabrielle Union, Larry Miller, Allison Janney. I mean, another one of these movies that has these amazing casts.
And what's funny about this too is the fact that excuse me, that do you want to know out of these main characters, do you want to know who the oldest one is out of all of them?
Well, I know
this kind of surprised me actually when I read about this.
I know Heath Ledger was only 18 when he auditioned.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say David Krumholtz.
No, it's actually Gabrielle Union.
And this was her first movie.
Uh-huh.
She did this as well as She's All That.
Yeah.
In the same year it came out. She was kind of blowing up with this and everything. But this one was her first movie because this was released first.
I think she was 26 in this movie.
What?
Yes. Because she was born in 72, and you figure 99, right?
I guess.
It's crazy, right?
That is crazy.
Where like even Joseph Gordon-Levitt's actually older. He's older. Yeah, he's older than Julia Stiles.
Gabrielle Union would have been like 29.
Yeah.
Dang.
You see what I mean? That's what I'm saying. Like she's actually not that as young as you think she is, and in this movie she's older than all of them. But
she looks great.
But it's Joseph Gordon-Levitt's actually only like a month older than Julia Stiles in this movie. Which if you look at him and her together, like she's always been that type of actress, and I've noticed is that she looks a lot older than she really is in some movies.
Yeah.
Like you see her in the Bourne movies and stuff like that. She's not as old as her character in the movies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like she's one of those people that probably don't age well, I guess. I'm not saying that she doesn't age well. I guess maybe it's just her style or something, that makes her look older or something. I don't know.
What was she like? She would have to be in 17 or 18 when this
she was 17 or 18 because they were both born in 81. Yeah. So in 99 you were 17, 18 years old.
Ledger was in 79.
Yeah, you were about 18 and the later half. It depends on when the movie was actually made.
Shut your face. Don't talk about my years.
Your ears or your years?
No, my years.
Oh, okay.
And when I was born. It's one of these, we talked about at the end of Can't Hardly Wait. We're going to have the movies coming up where, we've had some stars that have passed on since then. Last week we had She's All That. And do you remember who we had there?
Yeah, Paul Walker.
Yeah. So we had Paul Walker, obviously. He had passed away and everything. In this movie, obviously, Heath Ledger also passed away since then.
Hey, but didn't he? Hey, good thing is he did win Academy Award for his role as Joker, right?
Yeah.
Right.
He is posthumous.
Posthumous.
It was a posthumous award. And so, and then, of course, the movie we're doing next week too, which you'll find out. We got another actor who we've lost since then. So obviously Heath Ledger, his passing was a huge thing. I don't know if it was so much bigger because he was in the middle of playing what some would call the role of a lifetime, or if it was because it was so anticipated or hotly debated, him playing the Joker. Yeah. It became this huge thing, and obviously, we don't like to discuss the details of that kind of stuff, but I believe it was an accidental overdose that he had on some medication he was taking to, I don't know if it was for sleep or whatever it might be, complete accident and everything like that. But, it was a tragic thing because he was young and he was blowing up. And this movie, he would have won an Oscar even if he hadn't passed away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where had he been alive today, he probably would have been one of the biggest things in Hollywood right now. I mean, don't you think?
Yeah. I mean, he had so much to offer, and I mean, you could see him in this role. They were saying that he did a lot of his acting based on The Taming of the Shrew, and then his character in The Taming of the Shrew. You mean
the Elizabeth?
Yeah.
Whatchamacallit movie? Elizabeth, not Hurley.
No, I'm saying actually, like his role in this movie, the way he acted, the character that he was playing in Taming of the Shrew, like the play Taming of the Shrew.
Okay, so what were you saying about it then?
Like he apparently the character in the play or whatever did a lot of these smiles and mannerisms with his face, you know what I mean? The way he looked at people and the way he's constantly smiling and cheesing basically was like the same character in the play.
Yeah.
Like he played that very well apparently from what they were saying.
Yeah, I didn't know if you were talking about thinking of Elizabeth Taylor.
Oh no!
Because back in the day in the 60s, I believe there was a movie, The Taming of the Shrew. Yeah. And Elizabeth Taylor played the Katerina. Richard Burton played Petruchio. And, obviously all these Shakespearean names. But obviously this movie was, it's based on The Taming of the Shrew, although it's not exactly like it. It's not, I mean, obviously it's not like it because it's modern day with teens, but it's not even, it doesn't even have like the same plot steps, if that makes any sense. So like Joey's character as a suitor for Bianca, that was actually like two characters merged into one. And then I'm not sure if there was like this whole payment for this person, because back in the day it was these characters, it was back in those days it was fathers trading their daughters to the future husbands for money, for land, whatever it may be. Yeah. So it was kind of one of those things, like this person had so many suitors, but he had to get this person married off so, he could get as much money as he could, all that kind of stuff. So, little different, but this one involved, it has a lot of the same types of things.
Yeah.
We were talking about the school and the name of the school. Do you remember
the name of the town, right?
Do you remember what the name of this? Padua High School is what they called it, and that was the town that the Taming of the Shrew took place in. And this takes place in Seattle, Washington. I've actually been to the place where they did the paintball scene and everything. Whenever I lived up there for a little bit, that was pretty cool. It was around this.
I talked to my wife about that situation too, because that just didn't make any sense. I mean, and I was like, who plays paintball like that? And she said, no, it's literally called paintball. So it's like water,
instead of paint bullets.
Water balloons. Yeah. But instead of paintball, what we're used to is shooting with people with guns and stuff.
Right.
Where this one's throwing basically. It's
like a water balloon fight.
Yeah, it's basically like a bum said, "Hey, look at all this paint that I found on the side of the road. Oh, look, a bunch of balloons. Let's fill them up, and then this little place up under the bridge, we're going to go ahead and have people throw it at each other." It's like, hey, let's try to get some money in, and probably people paid for it.
Yeah, well, it was right. It was pretty close to. I think it's pretty close to the docks where they did the Sleepless in Seattle scenes with Tom Hanks.
Oh, okay.
As well, but. Anyways, the director saw this when he was scouting the location, saw this high school, and it was originally built as a hotel back in the early 1900s, I believe. And there was some kind of a fire, and so they thought, oh, it's not good for guests anymore. Let's put a bunch of kids in there.
Yeah, because that makes total sense.
And it does look like it's like on the precipice of a landslide, like if any of that ground gives away, the entire building is going to come crashing.
I was just waiting for Dumbledore to walk out the front door.
It does kind of look like that.
Yeah, it's kind of a high school like I would want to go to. You know what I mean? Like there's that one high school in Utah that they tend to or Bonneville, not Bonneville, it's
Ogden
High, where they use it for a lot of movies, and I think they used it for a rom-com teen movie.
They did. She's All That, or not She's All That. Drive Me Crazy.
Drive Me Crazy. That's
with,
right.
Clarissa Explains It All. Melissa Joan Hart. Yeah, that was a big claim to fame in Utah when we lived in Ogden.
But that school is like ancient looking. I mean, it looks like something from
It does look very weird.
60s. Yeah, it's definitely. Nothing new,
Yeah, if you guys Google it, it's definitely not your typical looking school. But this one is like so like monolithic and has that huge. It's up on that huge cliff and.
Yeah, and the gargoyles are going to jump down and attack you.
Yeah, and then they had that field down there below it and everything. I don't know. It just when I saw this, it was like you said. I wanted to go here.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
And I think everybody sees that as like, I would love to go to this school because it looks so cool. And it's beautiful, and it's up on the cliff and you're overlooking the sound and everything like that. It's just I don't know. It's I saw the school. And I think that we can go ahead and give this the award for the best movie school ever.
Hogwarts owns that, actually.
No, I think this is even better than Hogwarts because Hogwarts you're expecting something.
You have moving
like this.
stairs in
This
Hogwarts.
is a real life school that people actually go to.
Voldemort
in real life
has cruxes all over that school.
Horcruxes.
Yes.
Have you ever been to Hogwarts? Has anybody ever been to Hogwarts?
Dreams.
People have been to this school and go to this school.
Yeah, I know. But you know what's funny is that like it's got the football stadium next to it. It's a rather large. Like what? Are there really that many students go there? And then is there really? I mean, they probably have every class imaginable at that school. It's so large.
Yeah, because this school is actually in Tacoma. Very close to Seattle. But I don't know. It's amazing, and I love the scene where David Krumholtz's guy goes off the grassy area with his motorcycle. Well, not even a motorcycle, whatever that thing is.
It's a dirt bike, and
he just lands. He's like, "I'm okay." That was pretty funny, and the fact that this school had a marching band in the movie, but in real life,
that school's marching band.
In real life, it doesn't have a marching band. Marching band's from a different school that they got.
Yeah.
That's close by and everything. But I'm like, man, you have a school that big with a field that big and all this kind of stuff, but no marching band. It's a little weird.
It is, and Well, you know what's funny too? I was thinking about this just now. Is that all these movies, they always have that one party in the movie. Have you noticed that? Where it's like a defining party. Like Can't Hardly Wait.
Where some stuff goes down.
Yeah, Can't Hardly Wait was like it was pretty much surrounding around that party.
Right.
She's All That.
The premise of Can't Hardly Wait is let's do a movie about those parties.
Right. She's All That was the prom. It was basically a party.
But they had the party at Dule Hill's house.
Yes. They had that party, and then on this one they had a party as well. That normally, like David Krumholtz's character probably has never been to any of these parties.
And why are they always crashing these kids that don't want anything to do with these big parties, houses? Like,
they're always on a mission, if you notice.
You had the one girl where they even referenced it in the movie. They said the girl with the big thighs or whatever. And she was in Can't Hardly Wait, and they trashed her house, and she's just walking around the entire time like just unraveling.
Yeah.
And then you got Bogey in this one.
Yeah.
Which is the British word for a booger. Mm-hmm. But he's walking around just like collecting spit cups and freaking out and everything. He's like, "Can you take it outside, please?" Like crash outside.
Yeah, this character was like, it seems like he should be selling insurance somewhere. The guy whose house it lived on. He's a very
that
creepy
will be
person.
Nigel with the brie.
Yeah, yeah, and then but you notice like even in the next two movies we're about to do. There's that party, that's defining party, and every single one of these movies, that's a very similar thing, that they have, and I just think it's ironic that every single time they have this party, it's something drastic happens at the party, you know what I mean, and something big happens at the party, like where you've come to find out that Julia Stiles finds out that she was kind of a bet in a way.
Right.
You know what I mean? So then that's a huge, big part of the movie. And just like all these parties, something happens like that,
Is Julia Stiles the queen of teen movies? You had asked me this 2 episodes ago and Can't Hardly Wait. And since then we've talked about like Jennifer Love Hewitt, Molly Ringwald, all that kind of stuff. But Julia Stiles, but she had some stuff before 10 Things I Hate About You. The only thing that was really notable that people might have known, I think, is The Devil's Own with Brad Pitt and Harrison Ford. She played Harrison Ford's daughter in that.
And Born Identity movies, she's in those.
But I mean, like before 10 Things I Hate About You, that's really the only thing that she did big. But then she did 10 Things I Hate About You. She did a Hamlet movie, and she did O.
She also did,
which is based on Othello.
Yeah, but didn't she do another dance movie or something?
She did, but I'm saying these are 3 Shakespeare. First of all, she's done 3 Shakespearean remakes. She did the 10 Things I Hate About You, which is Taming of the Shrew. She did Hamlet, and she did O for Othello. So she's done those. She's done Save the Last Dance, Down to You with Freddie Prinze Jr., The Prince and Me. I mean. And I think that's about when she ended. The Prince and Me was, I think, the last real cheesy kind of rom-com that she did. But I mean, she did a lot of defining things back in the day as well.
Yeah, I just, it's hard for me to say that because, like, I'm not a huge fan of hers. Like, her face is just, she always has the same face. Like, it's when she smiles, it's scary. Like. Really? I see her smile. Her smile is it's not a good compliment for her.
I think she's adorable. I think this is one of those cases where you and I just like have different tastes or whatever.
Something about the way that she keeps her face where it's like really no emotion to her. You know what I mean? She's definitely, I feel like she acts the same way in this movie that she does in a lot of her movies.
Well, okay, so I mean, you have actors that get pigeonholed in certain type of roles where she's like she's an angry person, anti beauty, prissy girl, that type of thing. That's what she always played, but I think she did it well. And, I mean, I even put a note down here, she's adorable and her acting is amazing in this, I thought.
There's a lot of similarities between
the poem and all that.
There's a lot of similarities between her and Ellen Page, I think. Or Elliot Page or whatever the heck.
Are you just talking about because of body type, attitude?
All that, yeah, all that put together pretty much. I feel like it's very similar way of acting, even the way she does her face. You know what I mean? It's just the looks on her face is just no emotion, and I think with an actor, you got to at least have like no emotion or so much emotion that you could tell that it's down deep somewhere. With her, I just feel lackluster.
This is one thing that we're completely separate on. Which because I feel like we were watching two different people, because I think that when I've seen her, I mean, you just instantly see like annoyance wash over her face.
Yeah.
You know, you see it when she's being charmed by Heath Ledger, how her face brightens up, and it's just been so gloomy the whole day, or the whole movie and everything, until she brightens up with him. And then she's got a bit of a cry face that's not
ugly crying.
She's like one of these just very strained cry faces where I was just like, I think the camera lingered on her a little bit too long.
I'm sorry, but she has the I have to go pee this entire time face. And I'm holding it right now. Yes, absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah, and and just another thing too is I just don't think it was a good portrayal for Heath Ledger as a bad boy, because originally they wanted, the way they kind of were trying to portray him was kind of a bad boy, but he just kind of seemed like a dork in a way, some of the, playing with the fire, things like that, too cool for school, very antisocial, you know what I mean? So like he was a bad boy, but I don't think he really was. Like he didn't really.
I think back then I remember when I first watched this, thinking, okay, it could be believable. I mean, but we have so many tough guy personas nowadays or whatever that it, maybe it's not so much now, or he's played other different characters where you're like, it's not so much of a tough bad boy thing. Yeah. And I don't think they were really going for tough bad boy, maybe just more mysterious, didn't know if this guy was going to pull out a gun and shoot you type of thing. Yeah. You just didn't know. It was more about the mystery of it, the fact that he had an Australian accent and everything. Yeah. I don't know if they were going for somebody with a different accent. I know they first in the movie, one of my first notes was like, what does an Australian dude doing in a school like this? They did explain it later that he grew up with his mom until he was 10 in Australia. Yeah. So I suppose that kind of explains it away. I thought it was a cool decision because, in the old story, you have some guy that comes from a different country, from Verona, which is why his last name is Verona. And he comes in and comes into the story. So it's cool to get somebody that seems kind of exotic from a faraway land to come in with the rest of this cast. And it adds to his mystique and mysteriousness. But I totally get what you're saying as far as watching this. I was like, it's not really intimidating.
No, not at all.
There's much more intimidating.
But what they try
in high school.
Well, yeah, and what they were trying to do is basically put in, they had to hook up Julia Stiles' character. So who better to do it than somebody that's pretty much the male version of her?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And he was a good-looking kind of pretty boy, too.
Yeah.
Because, even the director, the first time he saw him, he was like, I've never wanted to have sex with a man, but I want to have sex with that man.
Oh, God.
That's what the director said.
Wow.
So,
but I
think they were going for that pretty boy look.
And he did I think he did a good job. To be honest with you, I think the best actor was Joseph Gordon-Levitt in this movie. I thought that his... even Cromwell, he did pretty good, I think, in this movie. But it was definitely, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I think, any movie he's done, I've never seen him do a bad movie. Can we talk about that? Because literally, even the TV show, 30 Rock.
Third Rock
from the Sun.
So my opinion's kind of gone back and forth with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I've always seen him as a guy that overacts, where he's conscious that he's acting, and that's what it seems like. It kind of goes over to me. And when he was younger, I was like, okay, well, it just seems like maybe he's just fresh, or he's like a TV actor. He started this was his first major role after Third Rock from the Sun. Him and Julia Stiles were the only ones that were kind of known. Yeah. And everything, but he always seemed that way. But then when I saw him in things like Snowden. Even that new movie that came out where the entire movie is inside of a cockpit of a plane and it's getting hijacked and he's locked in the plane. The hijackers are trying to get in there and everything. I don't know if you've seen it. It's I think it might be an Amazon original or something like that. But it's like 4,400. I don't know. It's the name of the flight, whatever the flight number was or whatever. But basically what happens is his captain immediately gets killed or whatever, and he's the co-pilot, and they're terrorists, but he's able to lock him out of the cockpit, and he's kind of by himself, but he's like, they're like, if you don't open the door, we're going to start killing people back here. So he has to deal with that and land in the plane and everything, but the entire movie does not leave the cockpit.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It builds that tension. So that movie and Snowden, I think he did really good. I don't like him when I see him in Christopher Nolan movies.
Really?
I don't, because...
Dude, I thought he did an awesome job in Batman.
I know, but like Christopher Nolan... cast him as kind of the cool guy, the laid back guy or whatever it is. But I think he does a little bit of the overacting in that too. Like the scene in The Dark Knight Returns that really bothered me was when he was like, he was telling Bruce about, that the money had run out for the funding of the boys' homes and stuff. Yeah. He was like, time to start getting out and paying more attention. The way he delivered the lines was like, it's a little bit of overacting and everything. So I don't know if he's, because he wants to play the cool guy, the confidence guy, that he just overacts a little bit too much for me. But I have seen
Inception,
certain roles where I was very impressed by him.
Well, that role that he played, a younger Bruce Willis, what was that movie called?
By the director you love so much.
Yeah. Oh man.
No, I know what you're talking about. It's God, I'm gonna have a brain fart right now.
It's gonna bug me. I'm gonna look it up real quick. But no, I thought he played that
Looper.
Looper, that's
Looper
right.
is what it's called.
But I thought he played that really well too. I mean, just trying to play basically another actor. A very well known with his mannerisms type actor.
They did really good with the makeup in that though too.
Yeah,
making his his nose look like Bruce Willis's nose. With the flat bridge. And all that.
But I mean, can you imagine trying to? It's like trying to with Bruce Willis is because of his mannerisms. It's like trying to impersonate Robin Williams or something. You know what I mean? It's like nobody can do that, and I've yet to see anybody can get close to that. The way he is.
Yeah, if they ever want to do an autobiography movie about Robin Williams,
good luck.
I pity the person that has to take on that. But I another thing I have to disagree with you on. His performance in this movie, it reminds me of his performance in Halloween H2O when he was that kid at the very beginning. Yeah. I don't know if you remember, but at the very beginning, before we meet Josh Hartnett and Jamie Lee Curtis and all that, Michael Myers goes and robs that nurse's house of paperwork and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so she gets home and finds her house open, and so she goes to her neighbors and it's like, I don't know if anybody's there. I called the police, but could you go and check my home? And remember, he had the hockey stick and everything like that. And I think they got like ice cleats put in their head afterward. Yeah. They did get killed afterwards, but he's like, all right, if anybody wants to mess around, and he throws his stick on the ground and hits it on the ground, and he's like, we're gonna have some problems, okay? Like he's got, it's that TV actor. Yeah, he's coming off a Third Rock from the Sun. He's still got that mentality. So
but you got to understand at his age on that show, Third Rock, right? He was playing a like an 80-year-old man,
right?
Like a general and stuff like
that. He was like a warrior and everything, and he was stuck in a kid's body.
Yeah, and the fact that he played that so well. That to make it believable and stuff for his age, that you got to give him props for that.
I give him props, but it was still kind of like this. With TV acting, you're always going to have overacting, right?
Yeah.
With the movies, you got to try to go more realistic. TV, you're playing a caricature of a character.
Yeah.
They did do it in Big Bang Theory, all these shows and everything. Third Rock from the Sun, the same vein as Big Bang Theory, where you have these outrageous characters and everything. And I felt like that's how he was in H2O and in this one, where it was kind of like he did a good job, especially for his age and everything. And this is one of those movies where like you really get those characters close to being teenagers, like they are in the movies, instead of having people in their late 20s. You still have that, but I think you have more of them closer to their age. So I mean, that's one of the things that stands out. It's like they have less experience, to me, in my eyes at least. They have less experience, and so I don't know. It just kind of irked me a little bit.
Well, did you see that we also had a TV actor or a TV actress, a Nickelodeon one, no less, Alex Mack.
Alex Mack, the what is it called? The Curious World of Alex Mack.
Yeah,
that Larissa. How do you say this? Olenek or Olnick?
I'm not.
Olenek. Larissa Olenek, maybe. But yeah, she was in. What else was she in? I had a huge crush on her.
Yeah.
I can't remember what else she was in, but
I don't think I haven't seen her in forever. I don't even know if she's doing anything else. Is she?
She hasn't been doing anything for a while. I knew she did some, like, you know, I guess what you would call like more grown up roles or whatever, trying to separate herself from that Nickelodeon. I think she was in, let's see, All That. She was in Boy Meets World. She was actually in Third Rock from the Sun. I didn't know that. She was in quite a few episodes. Looks like she was in 21 episodes.
They were a couple in that show.
Yeah, and I wonder if that was, well, yeah, it was after he had done. Let's see, yeah, it was after he had done 10 Things. They did 10 Things I Hate About You in '99, and Third Rock from the Sun ran through 2000. So I guess she was in the last season of that. She came in there. I do remember she was in that 100 Girls. Have you ever seen that movie?
No.
Where he has a encounter with a girl in an elevator when the power goes out in the entire dorm, and it's just him and a girl, and he can't see who she is, but they hook up.
Yeah.
And then he spends the rest of the movie trying to figure out who she is and all that. So let's see. What did she do after that? She was in Psych. That's right. She played like some kind of a goth person when they were trying to fight a werewolf, and they thought it was a real werewolf, but it was not a real werewolf.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she had like a thing for people like that. She's done a lot, but nothing like crazy popular.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. You know, she's been like in Mad Men and the new Hawaii Five-0 and different things like that, but she didn't really blow up like some of these others did after it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them did, you know. You know what's funny about this too is that, remember how I was talking last episode or so about how all the sports in this, you know, where we're coming from a generation of you know, before and after this time period, where everybody's, you know, it's football centered, you know what I mean, in the high school, where again this one's soccer centered again, you know, you get soccer.
West Coast.
Yeah.
I think it's a West Coast thing.
It's got to be, because if you notice, a lot of these are ones, you know, are all centered around like soccer and
archery. Well, did you ever remember doing archery in school?
No,
I did that in like scouts, but I do schools still do archery?
I don't. No, actually, no, I did.
In middle school, dude in the ass.
In middle school, we did archery. I remember.
Really?
For like athletics, we did archery. It wasn't like a
no schools I went to.
Yeah, I went in San Antonio. That's why I did archery for athletics.
That's weird.
Yeah, it wasn't like a sport, like a team effort. It was just kind of like something they were teaching you how to use a bow and arrow or something. And I felt like the Green Arrow, you know, doing.
Was it H.B. Zachary?
Yeah, actually, I think so.
H.B. Zachary.
Yeah, it was.
Went to Knowlton Elementary.
Yeah, well,
those were the days. I ended up living 5-10 minutes away from there.
Yeah.
As an adult, it's crazy.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I just you know,
talk about how this movie started. Like Bare Naked Ladies starts automatically playing.
Oh, I know, and I love Bare Naked Ladies.
Well, what's your favorite song of Bare Naked Ladies? The whole universe was in a hot, dense state, and nearly 14 billion years ago, expansion started. Wait.
Yeah, see, you know, I put them in the category with what is the Mouth All Stars or
Smash Mouth?
Smash Mouth, you know.
Yeah, they do have a lot of.
They're all just catchy music tunes that were they probably could, you know, those two bands, you know, Smash Mouth and
interchangeable.
Yeah, they can really, you know, they probably could have made all their money just by doing tunes for TV shows and movies.
They're good at jingles.
Like jingles, yeah, they're all about the jingles. And every time I say jingles, I always think of Pierce and Community. You know, where he basically pretty much robbed.
That's just the way it goes.
They had to pay some money or something for that, because I don't know how they could have.
I don't know if they played it to Tupac or what Tupac sampled it from.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and so we start out with this movie where with it coming out, you got the Smash Mouth, and you start to get the introduction to Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character.
Did you see what some of the crowds were doing? You know how they have all the different clips out there?
Hacky sack.
No, it wasn't. Hacky sack would have been better. These guys were in rollerblades with hockey sticks, playing street hockey in the parking lot, and I'm like, oh gosh, and I rolled my eyes, and I'm like, it's so 90s, but then I'm like, oh, how much did I spend in rollerblades in the 90s?
Well, this is
I used to pride myself on being able to go backwards in rollerblades faster than people could go frontwards.
So you find him, and he goes to the principal's office, and you find out the principal's just some like hidden undercover pervert.
I want to talk about Allison Janney because this was before she became.
She's actually
huge.
won an Academy Award. You know that, right?
Oh yeah.
Her
was it an Academy or was it an Emmy?
I'm pretty sure it was an Oscar. I want to say that because I read somewhere where it was her and Heath Ledger are the only ones to actually win an Academy Award.
Well, I know she was on The West Wing, and that's where she really kind of blew up and became popular and everything. But I could have sworn it was an Emmy, and maybe it was for The West Wing. Either way, award-winning actress, and she's been in things like The Help, Hairspray, The Hours, Juno.
She was so awesome in Juno.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Juno is like one of my favorites because you got Rainn Wilson in there. He goes, "That ain't no etch-a-sketch, home skillet. That's one doodle that can't be undid."
That's such a classic line.
One of the best lines from the movie. That ain't no etch-a-sketch.
Well, the way that her and him reacted in that movie was just so ideal. Like they were
just like, shut up.
Yeah. So she's a. You find out she writes X-rated novels,
trash novels.
Yeah, and so obviously she's not really probably the greatest available educator.
Well, she finds
on the planet.
She spends most of the movie trying to figure out different ways to talk about somebody's penis.
Yeah,
basically, they get an engorged member and different things like that. And then
remember PG-13 at least.
But I'm just saying, these kids come in there and they'll like offer different suggestions and everything, and she's like, "That's not bad." Whenever like Julia Stiles, like, "I'll let you get back to like Ricardo's engorged member," or something like that.
It's one of those.
That's not bad.
It's one of those scenes that like you don't really ask for, but it's kind of nice to have in there because it's funny.
Yeah, and she's like so dirty, but then when she talks to him, she's like, "Okay, scoot." Just like some kind of normal elementary type counselor or whatever, but she's like really this dirty person. And of course they have that cut scene at the end where she's in the hallway with that other dude and he's like stripped down. Do you remember that?
Yeah, and see when we're young like that, right? Even up to throughout high school, for back when at least we went to school, you always thought your teacher
not as jaded.
Yeah, exactly. But you think teachers are like nuns, like when you're growing up and things like that, and then you get older and you realize you're like, okay, these people are like your neighbors. These people are like people you went to high school that that they're not 100% moral type people.
Yeah, and it may be different nowadays for kids. Maybe they're, they have less respect for teachers. But I think it's just because we had a certain level of respect. There was a mystique about teachers where... we didn't realize they were normal people, but it was just like one of these people you didn't ever want to make eye contact with outside of the classroom or be around, much less inside of the classroom or be around and everything. But then, you recognize that they're real people. Nowadays, kids are just like whatever and they're disrespectful.
I know. I can't stand that you don't really get introduced to any other teachers at the school, really.
Mr. Morgan.
Well, okay. Besides
Is he like the best part of this movie?
In faith I do not love thee with mine eyes, for there in thee 1,000 errors note. But 'tis my heart that loves what they despise, who in despite of you is pleased to dote. Now, I know Shakespeare's a dead white guy, but he knows his shit, so we can overlook that. I want you all to write your own version of this sonnet. Oh, come on. Yes, miss, I have an opinion about everything.
Do you want this in iambic pentameter?
You're not gonna fight me on this?
No, I think it's a really good assignment.
You just messing with me, aren't you?
No, I'm really looking forward to writing it.
Get out of my class.
What?
Out, get out!
Thanks, Mr. Morgan.
Shut up.
Yeah, I'd have to say so.
The way he has no patience for Kat or Joey.
Oh,
right?
yes.
Joey's
okay,
too
I'm sorry.
pumped.
I just totally spaced about him. He was like one of the best actors in the whole entire movie.
Yeah, played by Daryl Mitchell. But he the way he comes, I mean, he has no patience for Joey's jackassery and being who he is. He has no patience for Kat being the way she is, which is cool because this movie is a very feminist movie, and I don't mean new age feminist.
Yeah.
I mean the classic feminist.
Yeah,
you know,
I mean, look at the bar. Look at the bar that they go to listen to music at. It's 99.9% female in that bar, you know.
Right.
And my wife's like, she said, "Oh, is this a lesbian bar?" I said, "No, it's not like considered that because back then, you get the grunge music. You get a lot of grunge. You got a lot of, it's a little
woman
leftover.
bar.
Yeah, and you get a lot of this indie type music in the movie.
Right.
Of course, then you get a little bit of Big Papa in there too, but
Hypnotized.
yeah, but I mean, it's a lot of like these
Biggie, can't you see?
That's probably one of the most you got two iconic scenes in this movie, right? The two real iconic scenes that nobody will ever forget. When you look at Julia Stiles for one of them, okay, and then the other one you look at Heath Ledger. When you see these two actors, rest in peace Heath Ledger, obviously, but him singing that song in the stadium. That's
which we're gonna get to.
Right, and that's one of the most iconic scenes. The other one is Julia Stiles
reading the poem.
Yeah,
that's where.
I was actually thinking more so her dancing.
To Hypnotize. Yeah. Well, real quick before that, the Daryl Mitchell who plays the teacher, Mr. Morgan, he's just so funny because. The fact that it's like kind of it's got a feminist undertone or message to it in the movie, but he's just telling her she's a pain in the ass the whole time.
Yeah.
I mean that's the kind of stuff that I find hilarious and
some of the stuff he was saying is like do you honestly believe that this movie could have been put out this around this time of year or the last 5 years?
There's so much about this movie that is in tune with the way the world is now, but there's so much about it where you're like
getting away with saying half the things.
You wouldn't be able to say some of this stuff. Like the dad, what did he say? My insurance does not cover PMS.
Yeah.
If you heard that in a movie nowadays, there'd be a little bit of a backlash. But you remember the other movie another big movie he was in?
My daughter was trying to figure out. She's like, I've seen him before, and I'm like,
the teacher.
Yes.
He was in Galaxy Quest.
That's right, with Tim Allen and Sigourney Weaver.
Because whenever he was on the show in the movie, he was a kid. He was the pilot as the kid. I remember he was all grown up, and they were like, "Oh, you got to fly the ship." And he's like, "I don't know how to fly the ship." And they're like, "It's just based on the actions you did as you went on the show."
Yeah.
And he was like really weirded out about. I love Galaxy Quest.
We should do a podcast on that one.
We have to because that's like one of the greatest.
Got Alan Rickman in it. I mean, come on, Tim Allen, Sigourney Weaver.
It's one of the greatest. It's one of those movies that takes the piss out of something.
Yeah.
And I love those movies, and that's probably one of the greatest.
With this movie, did you feel like the teacher, right? He was kind of
Mr. Morgan.
Yeah, he was kind of like Shakespeare.
Well, he rapped. They talked about Shakespeare, didn't? Or it was just kind of creative writing or something.
But I felt like he was Shakespeare in this movie, kind of telling, not necessarily telling the story, but kind of keeping everybody organized in the story in a way.
So kind of like what we were talking about, and She's All That with Usher, kind of talking about what's going on. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I could see that. My question was, they're reading about Shakespeare, and obviously William and what was it, Mandela? Mm-hmm. That was a weird name for Julia Stiles' friend, Mandela.
Yeah.
But her and William, they both like Shakespeare. So I was thinking of this movie. I was like, does Shakespeare exist in this world? And then they started talking about, I love Shakespeare. I'm like, okay, so Shakespeare exists in this world. These two are obsessed with Shakespeare, and other kids may know about it too. But if they're that obsessed, they've obviously heard of The Taming of the Shrew. Does it ever occur to them that the names and situations of what's going on in their high school at the current time?
I mean, the name of the high school alone. I mean,
I think if you have a movie like this that's like a modern retelling, I think you have to. And maybe this is just because this is how my brain works, and maybe I'm very much in the minority here, but all I think of is, how do these people not know that their circumstances right now are a Shakespeare story, or the story that they're recreating?
Well,
like, Shakespeare shouldn't exist in this world if this is the Shakespeare story.
But how they probably explain it is that, like everybody, this drives me up the wall. This really drives me up the wall that people, in a way, are either so uneducated that they look up to certain people and look up to certain events that, when a couple, we're like Romeo and Juliet, so what? You're going to kill yourself in the end because one's too stupid to realize that the other one's not dead. So, it
was those times, man.
Well, it's just
They
like
had
Joker
to
and Harley
trust
Quinn.
the apothecary.
Well, look at Joker and Harley Quinn. People look up at that and they're like, "Oh, I want my relationship to be like that."
And it's
okay,
like,
they're
this is
both psychopathic
horrible-
people that kill people.
And besides that, it's so toxic to each other. They're terrible to each other, and he's very abusive to her.
Right.
But I want a relationship like that.
Well, and that's what drives me up the wall is that people are. It's not so much being so uneducated. It's like not understanding what a relationship is. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, you're not trying to take a relationship naturally. You're trying to inject Hollywood and things that you've seen in TV shows and things that you've read in books. You're trying to inject that into a relationship and make your relationship like a fairy tale. And relationships aren't like that. There's a lot of realness to them. There's a lot of nothingness sometimes. Sometimes there's just nothingness, and so it's just one of these things. Like, not everything has to be so dramatic. There doesn't have to be declarations of love and all this every few minutes or whatever it is.
Well, it's like in Hollywood that that's what Hollywood's known for. They glorify violence, right? They glorify violence. They say that this relationship, this toxic relationship, is a goal to achieve. They put things in people's heads like, if you just do this or do that, you'll gain tons of money. They glorify violence. They glorify gang violence. They glorify, things like that in movies. Yeah, and people eat them up, including us. We eat that up. But I think it's just really hard nowadays for people to separate, real life from Hollywood.
Have you ever taken any of these movies that we watched in high school and like had a romantic sense about it? About, I wish I could do these grand gestures, or thought about doing these grand gestures to woo.
Well, my favorite movie, I mean, come on, say anything. I mean, he holds a boombox up.
Right, but have you ever wanted to do anything like that in a relationship and then just go, okay, well, that's a movie thing, that's dumb?
Well, I can't say I haven't gotten ideas, from different things, but it's. I think I'm able to separate the two.
Have you ever heard of deals or bets being made like we've seen in She's All That and in this movie in high school? Did you ever see anything like that?
No, because the reason I think that is because these movies exaggerate a lot of effects, and including bets like that. I mean, I'm sure there's stuff like that out there, but that just, would make you a terrible person.
I wonder if stuff like that happened after these movies. Like,
I'm sure.
Like then teens got ideas like, oh yeah, we should do a bet, just like that movie or whatever.
Yeah. Well, and you also look at Manson, right? He glorified certain things, and people followed him, doing his bidding in a sense like that because he made it sound great, and you see, I mean, that's the most drastic version.
I was like,
of
are we
that.
Talking about Charles or Marilyn?
Oh, Charles.
Right, yeah, because I was like Marilyn. I was like, he was just trying to shock.
But it's just little thing. I mean, it does happen, but I think it's just
that's what happened to Sharon Tate.
And I think that's what people can't separate that, and that's scary to think that people can't separate, the violence part of it, or even these romantic notions that, if you do this or act this certain way, that this girl will come, begging to be in a relationship with you, that kind of thing like that, which that never, ever, ever, ever happens. I mean, it's totally different. And when you're younger, it's very influential to you, I think, and stuff like this. When I was watching this age, it made you feel good. That's why we're doing these podcasts over these these type of movies, because, it makes you feel a certain way. And that's good and all, but you got to learn how to separate that. You really got to separate that from the real life, and that's what makes Hollywood up. It gives people a new life, a new way to engross yourself into somebody else's life to mimic it in some sort of fashion, and that's when it gets scary, I think.
Yeah. Well, So we open up and we see this new guy, Cameron, played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt. He basically sees Bianca, falls in love with her instantly. He's being shown around by this guy named Michael, played by David Krumholtz. And just being shown around the school. These are the different groups. These are the cliques. Here's who you stay away from. Here's who's cool. All this kind of stuff. He sees Bianca, falls in love with her. He's like, well, everybody else is, so just stay away from that because there's no hope there. And of course, he breaks out to Shakespeare. Like I pine, I yearn, and all this kind of stuff. And it was kind of weird or whatever. But anyways, he finds out that she can't date. And so he's like, okay, well, maybe I can tutor her. He doesn't know French, but he's like, oh, I'll pretend to know French so I can tutor her. Well, through that, he finds out that she can date, but only if her sister dates. And her dad's implemented that rule because he knows that Kat hates everybody. And so she will never date anybody. So therefore, his youngest daughter, Bianca, won't be able to date either. So Cameron gets an idea, and he gets this guy, Joey, who's like the popular guy, the model, whatever. And he also wants to date Bianca too. So he's like, they're like, well, let's get him to pay somebody to date Kat, so then I could date Bianca and everything. Thinking that maybe she would want Cameron more than Joey or whatever. So anyways, they find Joey, and they finally find, I don't know, how did they land on Patrick?
Well, because they see him in the
they're just looking for other scary people, right?
Yeah, Joseph Gordon-Levitt sees him in the cafeteria and sees him around the hallways. And
that's right. He's like, what about him? He goes, don't look at him. Don't look at him.
Yeah. In the cafeteria. And then, they realize, he's basically the male version of her, she's
unlikable. He's unlikable, all that. So, yeah, they pay him. They finally, and they're like, I'll pay you $20. And he's like, oh, that's not bad, but... He goes, okay, 30. It's like, and of course it's the 90s or whatever, and there's kids back in high school, but you think about that nowadays and you're like, $20, that's it. Yeah. Is that it? $30 even? And I think at the end they land at 75.
Yeah.
And then I think later on he gets like 300 for the prom or something like that. But so I mean those are more likely. But I mean you got this guy. I guess he needs some money or whatever, so that's why he decides to do it. But he's also got this reputation that's all BS, and he just lets it fly because he doesn't like talking to people anyway. So he just lets the scary reputation happen. But he's really a nice guy and everything. So anyways, he starts taking Kat out, and she starts falling for him. And then Cameron wants to get with Bianca, but Bianca wants to be with Joey. And then she realizes Joey's a piece of garbage. So now she wants to be with Cameron, but Cameron doesn't think she wants to be. And then her best friend, Kat's best friend, what's her name? She wants to be with William. It's a mess. It's like this whole huge convoluted thing. But it's the way it's written and the way it's paced out. It's very easy to follow.
Right.
But there's just a lot to it. And it's a very unique story, right? But I think the culmination of it at the end was a little weird.
Well, I think it got rushed at the end. It just kind of felt like it was...
There should have been a lot more consequences, right? Yeah. But it was very rushed. He was like, hey, who do you think you are? And then he gets punched out by Bianca, which is cool and everything. But I was like, that's it? Yeah. Because there wasn't really much consequence for Cameron.
No.
Right? Well, all he wanted was Bianca, and about halfway through the movie, she realized she didn't want Joey, she wanted to be with Cameron, and so then they were kind of together. There really wasn't anything to worry about except for Joey, I guess, but he wasn't intimidating.
Yeah.
So the conflict was with Heath Ledger and his secret that he had started taking Julia Stiles out for, and that's why I say he's the main character, because he's the one with the conflict. Whereas Joseph Gordon-Levitt, he kind of puts together this plan, but he doesn't really have a huge conflict, and it's breezed by real quickly whenever she punches out the Joey guy.
You also got to consider he had the conflict in the sense of, it was kind of up and down for him, especially right before he drops her off when he gives her a ride home from the party. He's all but given up at that point.
But we know that Joey's a D-bag, and we know that she's eventually not going to go for him because she's not as shallow as he is. So we know it's.
But they do kind of make her look shallow at the beginning, though.
Yeah, but we thought there was every chance, and we got to know her throughout, though, and got to know her better. But we thought there was every chance that Julia Stiles and Heath Ledger would kind of go their own way, do their own thing. So anyways, we got two alums from the Christopher Nolan Batman movies, we got Heath Ledger who played the Joker, and we got Joseph Gordon-Levitt who played, for all intents and purposes, Robin.
Yeah.
His name wasn't Dick Grayson and everything, but I guess his real name was Robin, and so that was going to be a superhero name. That's not much of a secret identity. That's weird.
I don't know why they throw that in there.
I think, he was like, I guess him and Christian Bale had talked about it, and Christian Bale's like, if you try to bring Robin in this, I'm done. He didn't want Robin to be in it and everything because it would just be too cheesy. But I think it was kind of like a little nod to the fans, like, okay, I need a character here. Why don't we just go ahead and make him Robin at the end? Yeah, and not really Robin, but you could tell that's who's going to be like the new Batman.
The only thing with those Batman movies, I just hated the way that they ended Batman's story like that, the way they did. I just wasn't a big fan of that.
I liked it because he did the bulk of his work in the middle movie.
Right.
But I just still think was the bulk of taking down crime and corruption in Gotham.
Yeah, but if anybody knows anything about Batman, there's always going to be corruption in Gotham. It's also stated in Batman comics all the time that pretty much Batman is he's kind of like a crime. A bunch of crime happens, he cleans up a little bit of it. More crime happens, he cleans up a little bit of it. But I mean, it's just Gotham is pretty much lost.
I felt that, and that's how it is in all other iterations. I thought in this one, though, they did a pretty good job of showing that he did get rid of organized crime. As I said in the third movie, they did get rid of organized crime. And the only thing that was left was a little cleaning up here and there. Even Joseph Gordon-Levitt says in the movies, like, when you clean up the streets, you clean them up good. There's not much for us to do. Now, all hell breaks loose halfway through the movie, and the city almost gets nuked. Yeah. But, I think there was enough in there that says, okay, he rooted out the main problem. He had to have one last little adventure. But basically, the main issue was all complete in part 2. And he was a bad guy and everything like that. I don't know. That's a unique vision from Christopher Nolan, who I'm still trying to wrap my head around. The new movie,
Tenet.
The Tenet movie. I'm still trying to. I get it, I think, but then there's some things in there. I was like, well, that if I'm getting this right in the way that the filmmakers have said we're supposed to get it, this doesn't make sense or that doesn't make sense. Maybe we'll talk about that sometime, but. I know when they were casting this movie, the studios, the only note that they gave the director, because it was his first film, there's another, just like Can't Hardly Wait, first film, was you should look at those people on Dawson's Creek. They're real popular right now.
Yeah.
Basically wanted him to hire Katie Holmes and, I don't know, James Van Der Beek or Joshua Jackson. So, and, oh, gosh, I don't know if I would have been able to handle that.
Well,
Katie Holmes is all right. She did like Disturbing Behavior and a couple of different movies like that. But
one of my favorite TV shows is Fringe, anyway. So I like
Fringe was
Jackson.
Good. Yeah, but Van Der Beek. I think the only thing I've liked from James Van Der Beek,
Varsity Blues.
Oh yeah, there is that, but also, and maybe that's why they're like, oh, you need one of those Dawson's Creek people, and Varsity Blues did it and didn't do as well as 10 Things I Hate About You. So maybe the filmmakers made a good decision. But no, it was a few years ago. I'd say maybe like 7 or 8 years ago. They did
which is crazy because Varsity Blues is one of my favorite all-time movies. I love that movie.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
I love it.
But do you remember a few years ago when they did the Power Rangers reboot deal, where it was James Van Der Beek? He was a bad guy, and he was talking to somebody, and like they had killed off Jason, they had killed off certain Power Rangers, Zach and everything, but it was like this gritty, and it's basically what brought Power Rangers back.
Yes.
And Battlestar Galactica, Bo-Katan, what's her name, Katie Sackhoff, she played the Pink Ranger in there or something like that, or either that or Rita or something.
I wanted them to make that movie so bad.
Yeah, and it was like this, I think it was like a 10-minute short or whatever, but it had to do with the Power Rangers and how gritty it was. And remember, like, Zach, he was the Black Ranger, but he like got into drugs and all kinds of stuff, and he ended up getting shot in the head or something. It was like this real gritty thing. And then after that is when they came back with Power Rangers, because I think that may help make it popular again.
Yeah.
But that's something I always remember with James Van Der Beek, because like he was always so like goody two shoes, but apparently he's pretty separate from that character in real life or whatever.
Kind of
but
pigeonholed into Dawson's.
can you imagine this with Dawson's Creek cast?
I mean, I guess I could. I mean, to be honest with you, I really could. Just
I don't know who Katie Holmes would play.
Who knows?
I don't know. Nowadays, or I guess any day, any time in school, would she not get kicked out of school for flashing a teacher?
Yeah, that would be a whole big ordeal.
I would think that would be like expelled, because then you're talking about like sexual harassment with a minor and all this kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
No, not that. We need to be realistic.
Or her crashing her car, backing her car into that. I mean, yeah.
But she had PMS. The movie explained it.
Whoops! My insurance does not cover PMS.
You know, I mean, more than likely that father would be like, okay, you need to go see some rehab, or not rehab, but you need to go see a counselor or something. You know, you got anger problems. You know, because
One last thing I want to talk about is Andrew Keegan. Okay, he played Joey.
Yeah.
Have you heard about what he's doing nowadays? So apparently he's got a little cult going on.
What?
Out in California.
Wow.
It's called like Full Circle or something like that. New Day. I think it's Full Circle. But it's kind of like a new agey Scientology type of thing. And I think they almost went bankrupt a few years ago, but then they were able to stay afloat. I don't know if it's still going on, but I know for a good while he had started this. He called it a religion. He called it a certain way of life or whatever. Other people called it a cult, and that's basically what it was. So, but yeah, listeners, if you want to look into what good old Joey from 10 Things I Hate About You, look up Andrew Keegan. And look up Full Circle and see what that's about. I won't pass judgment on it.
Whatever.
I'm just passing on what I have heard and read about it. But it's an interesting thing.
Or something like that.
I hope it's not like one of these NXIVM things with Allison Mack, from Smallville, and they have like these sex slaves and all this kind of stuff that's going on. Crazy. Yeah. I still remember when you sent me that news article, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
I was like, what? Chloe? From Small? What is going on here?
Doesn't make any sense.
It's weird, but what they call her Master Mac or something like that.
Yeah, the things you don't know when you're watching shows when you're younger.
But I mean, we've heard about stuff like this from what was it? Somebody from was it Wu-Tang? I read a report, and it might have been somebody from Wu-Tang. I can't remember who it was, but I think he said Ghostface was there. But they go. He said they got invited to some party in Hollywood, and he's like, and it's a lot of famous. He goes, I'm not gonna name any names, but a lot of famous rappers and a lot of famous actors, and everybody was getting it on.
That's weird.
And it was just like this crazy. He goes, you just walk by these different rooms, and all kind of things are crazy. Things are going on. He goes, I was asked about it, what I thought about it. He goes, I can tell you that I was never invited back, and I still haven't been invited back to this day. He goes, but the type of stuff that people don't know about that goes on with these, elite Hollywood elites and whatever, it would shock.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, so look into the Andrew Keegan thing and see what you think. What was your favorite part of the movie?
I'd have to say her dancing a biggie. I love that part. That's an iconic scene.
She was a trained dancer too before this movie, and of course this movie was before Save the Last Dance.
Yeah.
But she was a trained dancer, and that's why she did so good with Save the Last Dance. In fact, in Save the Last Dance, when Sean Patrick Thomas, who played Jock number 2 and Can't Hardly Wait, when he was the male lead from Save the Last Dance, he'd be like, let's go out. They wanted to go out and party at night and everything. And Julia Stiles was like, oh no, because she had to do ballerina training in the morning and hip hop dancing in the afternoon. That was when she would train and everything. And she did the smart thing. There, she goes, it was so boring, but probably responsible too, because she had to do that. I mean, I wouldn't want to go out if I had to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was very committed to that. But it was so intense. She says that was the hardest thing that she's ever done to this day, Save the Last Dance, because of all the dance training. And after that movie, she never did dancing again. But she did replace it with yoga.
Okay.
So, but anyways, yeah.
Whatever.
So did you like the the fact that she danced good? Did you like the fact that it was Biggie? Or did you like the fact that it was her character kind of reverting back to how she used to be?
I kind of like the fact that they just threw some Biggie in there because, you know, you hear...
you just like the rap part.
Well, you hear a lot of the other kind of music, and a lot of it's just kind of like, oh, I remember that time. Oh, I remember that time. But then they throw in some Biggie, and you're like, okay, you know, it kind of gets you moving a little bit, you know, and it is Biggie after all, and
she's awesome at dancing.
Yeah.
So what I liked about that scene was that it takes you back to how the character used to be. You know, later on in the movie, she explains to her sister, or her sister explains to Cameron, she used to be popular, but I don't know, something happened, and she just got sick of it. And what she explains is that she used to date that Joey guy, and she used to be in with the in crowd, and then they had sex, and then she didn't want to do it anymore, and so he dumped her, and she realized that it was all BS and didn't want any part of it, and didn't want any part of that life and that high school life and those people. Well, she finally gets dragged to this party, you know, so her sister doesn't get left out or whatever. Yeah. She's guilted into going to this party, and she starts drinking, and this is exactly why she doesn't go to this parties. And I like it because it shows exactly why she doesn't go to this parties, because she reverted back to that old part of her. She first of all, she doesn't want Patrick helping her at all, and then she jumps up on the table and does the dancing thing. Like, you know, why else would you do that except, you know, one, you like to dance, but I mean, you're doing it in front of everybody. You're going to get some popularity off of that. I'm sure that's what she did when she was younger. So I mean, I liked it. It showed that she let her guard down a little bit, and then she reverted back to the person she didn't like being anymore, and all that kind of stuff. I thought that was cool. But yeah, I did like that because, man, she's a really, really good dancer.
Yeah. Anyways,
so
what was yours?
My favorite part, and I kind of left this till the end because I got to talk about David Krumholtz. And I know that you say it's silly. I used to be a huge fan of ER. And in ER, David Krumholtz had a few episode run where he played a psych patient, and he's kind of a schizophrenic.
He's psycho?
Yeah, and so he was being worked on by Carter and Lucy, and they were two characters in ER. And Lucy was my favorite because, one, I had a huge crush on her, and she was just so adorable and you know, a good character and everything. And this guy came in there, and you know, he had a few episode run. They thought he was doing all right, and he ended up stabbing Lucy and Carter in the hospital in a dark room, and nobody found him till like hours later when they had like bled out on the floor. They just barely saved Carter's life, but Lucy, spoiler alert, ended up dying. And I was so like into this show because of her. And you know, and the when he killed her. So from then on, every time I see this guy, it irks me. Whether it's in the Santa Claus, whether it's in this movie, in Numbers, whatever I've seen him in, it just like irks me because this guy killed my favorite character, and now like that's all I see whenever I see him.
But I mean, doesn't that say that he's a good actor then?
Yeah, I'm sure it is because
That's like me and Carrie Ells.
He was very creepy in that role, but it just carried on. I think it was more about my attachment to the Lucy character than David Krumholtz, but he did a very good job in that role and playing that psycho. And of course, he did that role after this, but you know, I saw things out of order. And so then I just hated everything that he was in, you know, whenever I saw him pop up. Now, I will watch Numbers.
Yeah.
I think he does a very good job of being separate from the characters he kind of usually plays, where they're like smartasses, kind of know-it-alls and everything, whereas this guy is like lacks confidence, but he's a real good guy and everything, and he's not kind of trying to schmooze anybody.
I hate to say it, but I think he's a phenomenal actor. I mean, the stuff that he does, I mean, he plays a different role. Yeah, I mean, I know this sounds it's ironic or stupid the way I'm saying it, but he plays a different role in every role he plays.
Yeah, I think he does that really, really good. That plays that character, and I think he plays different variations of that, except for in Numbers, which I thought he did a really good job in that show, which I still haven't watched to the end.
Yeah, I haven't either. It's one of those shows. Like, I got so many shows going on right now, but it's one of those shows that I want to finish, but then you know. There's certain parts and shows that stop me from watching it every time. You know what I mean? Like I'll watch a show with the wife or whatever, and You know, it just seems like I've watched the show a couple times, but I only get to a certain part of it, and then something makes me want to.
That's how it was with The Flash. I couldn't get past season 2. I think season 1 was so amazing that the change that they made in season 2 was a little harder. Same thing with what was that other show? Community. Whenever like Chevy Chase and Donald Glover left and everything, and it started to really change up.
I'll give you
because
that.
they were
I'll
losing
give you
some
that one.
people. It's hard to get it past a certain point in that show as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. I get that, but I only mention that because my favorite part in the movie is just a real quick thing. But it's my favorite part about these movies is probably the dynamic between Kat and Patrick. But my favorite part of the movie is whenever they're at the dance and like he's slowly dancing towards Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and he goes, "The shitteth has hitteth the fan yes." And then he's like pointing over there. I don't know why, but that part makes me laugh out loud every single time I watch it, and I think of you laughing at that too, and it makes me laugh even harder.
Yeah,
because I'm like, that's something that you would laugh at too. The shitteth hath hitteth the fan.
There's nothing more like entertaining for me than stupid humor.
Because it's stupid, but I mean, it's also doing like Shakespeare stuff, like that old King James way of talking, where it would just be like, "Thouest if," and all that kind of stuff. But did you have something you wanted to?
Yeah. I want to try to start something differently here at the end of each of our podcasts. We kind of want to let people know what we're watching right now. I mean, we watch these movies. A lot of times, like 90% of the movies that we have done podcasts over, about 99.99999%, we've seen multiple times, right? And so, we watch these movies for the podcast. A lot of times we'll watch them like the day before or the day of, just so it's fresh in our mind and stuff like that. But we also watch a lot of other TV shows and movies, included in there. So I just kind of want to add this in there. What are you watching right now?
So I'm going over a couple old shows. I just finished off Community again. Well, I just finished off Community for the first time going all the way through.
Okay.
It was good, and then I also finished The Big Bang Theory going all the way through.
Yeah.
And it had a pretty good ending and all that kind of stuff. Besides that, like right now I'm trying to go through The Flash, because I think I've told you, I've watched The Flash like 3 or 4 times, and I only make it to like the first couple episodes of season 2. Last year sometime I made it to, I think, the end of season 2 into season 3. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to go through it all again. There's just, they world build so fast and everything. Mm-hmm. And I think they were trying to make a huge universe, between Arrow and Flash and Legends of Tomorrow and everything like that. I think whenever you start building it up that much, it gets to the point where it gets aggravating, because they bring in a lot of storylines where I'm like, wait, where did that come from?
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, that was obviously in an Arrow episode that I didn't watch, because you're supposed to watch these all together.
Yeah.
And so it almost makes it to where, the CW made these shows after the first season of Flash and the first 2 seasons of Arrow. Past that, you have to watch all the shows to be able to understand what's going on.
Yeah.
For the most part. Well, I mean, for the most part, you can kind of watch it by itself, but that got aggravating. I will tell you something that I watched recently, and I'd say in the last couple months, and I rewatched it again recently. It's called Sticks and Stones, and it was on the BBC. It's a BBC show. It's a British produced, acted, directed show.
Yeah.
And it's about workplace bullying.
Okay.
So it has this one character, and it was actually Mom that showed it to me. It had this one character who basically, he gets in there and he's experiencing this workplace bullying. But it's like these very subtle, sly instances to where when he brings it up or goes to a boss and they try to talk to that person about it, and the person goes, no, this is what I was doing. It's in a way where it could have been explained away very easily and very level-headedly. Mm-hmm. But this guy knows that they're messing with him. Okay. And so he starts to unravel a little bit. Yeah. He starts to, every single thing that they're saying, he's like, I know what you're trying to do with this. But whenever he goes to the boss or whenever he tries to talk about it, they always have an answer for something.
Yeah.
And it's like, it doesn't sound interesting, but when you're watching it, it's like these little subtle. I love BBC shows because, I mean, they put a lot of thought into their stories and characters. But, you know, it's just these little subtle things that build up and build up and build up. And the whole show, and it's good, like 6 episodes or something like this. It's kind of like a mini series. But, you know, it builds up and it builds up and it builds up. And you're just like, this guy. And it gets to the point where even the bosses think that he's crazy now. They're like giving him the option, like, look, you can quit if you want, and if you don't quit, then, you know, chances are you're going to be fired because you've made all these accusations and there's no proof of it, all this kind of stuff. And you're with this guy because you know, obviously, that these people are bullying him too and are doing these little things. But it's an adult way of bullying where it's very smart, it's very subtle, it's very nuanced. And it's just like this psychological thing where you're just like, you know, you're gripping yourself because you're so angry about what's going on and that nobody believes him and everything. And the tension keeps building and building. And finally it releases at the end. Yeah. Kind of like Uncut Gems. I mean, not the way that Uncut Gems released its tension at the end, which was shocking.
What about that Michael Douglas movie where he has a suitcase? Like
Falling Down?
Yeah. That's like one of his most famous movies.
Yeah, Falling Down, where he just loses it. Yeah, but I mean, that was just like he had a problem with his work, and he's having problems with his work, but he can't get anybody to believe him. Yeah. And it's like it's all because, you know, this person wants a promotion, that person wants a promotion, but they end up making him look crazy. They make him look like the nut job when it's really these people, these horrible, horrible people, but they're so sweet with their smiles in front of the boss, and the boss is really trying to figure out what's going on, but everything he is getting and hearing and finding out all points to this guy being the problem when he's not. So it's one of these very well developed, very well written, and very well produced type of shows. I really, really definitely suggest you watch it. So I suggest our listeners watching it. If you have BBC, I'm sure you can find it on Amazon or something. But yeah, it's called Sticks and Stones. It's, you know, in the UK, it's ITV and everything. But give that a watch. It's an amazing show.
All right. That sounds good.
What are you watching?
Well, right now I'm watching Last Man Standing. I love that show, man.
That's such good. I want to
start watching it from the beginning. And
Dad's been watching that, and I told him to watch Home Improvement too. But he's like, "That's a good idea."
Yeah. Well,
I'm like, he's the same guy.
That too.
He just has 3 sons instead of 3 daughters. Well, but in real life,
yeah,
Tim Allen has daughters. But.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it's funny because it's between, you know, Tim Allen's character and then the middle daughter. And kind of her husband too, but these 3 characters.
The middle daughter's husband is. Yeah. I thought it was the older daughter's who had the baby, her husband, because the middle daughter is the ditzy teen.
But what I'm saying is those 3 characters are the king of the show. I mean, those 3 characters. I mean, just the way they deliver their lines is just phenomenal. And they're extremely believable, but it's just it can be relatable to certain groups of people. Meaning, you know, it's a very conservative show, but it's actually written by a bunch of liberal writers, which is kind of funny. The way that it came together. Well, it got canceled and then it got moved to Fox.
Yeah, Fox bought it up for the 7th season. But it was what, ABC?
I think so. I want to say
before that. I don't think it was NBC. I think it was ABC.
But it's a phenomenal show, and it's just really good because it brings a lot of that conservative, you know, liberals coming out with conservative jokes, which is the way it works. It's brilliant, you know. And then I'm watching that. I'm also
it has Caitlin Dever in it, and she's in Justified. She's actually a huge part of Justified, and in all the episodes past season.
And she comes up with some quips too, you know.
And she's hilarious because she's the no nonsense daughter, the youngest that has no patience for stupidity and everything. But my favorite is the one that plays Mandy, Molly Ephraim.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
She's the middle one.
Hilarious.
And you know, what is it, the Pie Shop or whatever the song that they do in the first season or whatever. But she is hilarious. Like you know, I was talking to Dad about this, like you know, and she's one of his favorites too, because you know, she's just like comic gold. She was actually in part 2 of Paranormal Activity. She played the daughter.
She's actually a lot older than like her character. You know, I mean, her character's supposed to be like 17, 16, something like that. But I mean, she's like in her mid 20s in this show or something, you know?
Yeah. It has Tim Allen, Hector Elizondo, and Nancy Travis, obviously, from So I Married an Axe Murderer.
And then they bring in a lot of characters. They bring in the wife from Tool.
Zachary Taylor Thomas?
Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
Taylor
yeah,
Thomas,
and then when they bring in the wife from Home Improvement, she literally talks about her husband dying. And then they introduce the son, which Jonathan Taylor Thomas plays her son and plays a different character in the show, like a regular reoccurring character in the show. Not so much in the later seasons, but
so it's like obvious, like let's dip into Home Improvement territory.
Her husband's name is like Tom.
Oh,
you know, so it's,
is the older son in? Does he ever come in?
No, it's just them two. It's just
because I know the older son, he didn't do as well in Hollywood. You know, Jonathan Taylor Thomas just kind of quit to do school or whatever. He was in Smallville. Yeah, but I mean, like the older brother, he was in a few other shows. Like he was in Smallville and stuff.
The younger brother's like nowhere.
No, I mean he went and bought a van and lives in a van with his wife, and they live like out in the wilderness and stuff. And
but it's funny because even she says Home Improvement wife says she says, yeah, my husband thought himself a tool man. You know what I mean?
Jill Taylor.
Yeah. So it's funny because the name's different, but literally she said, hey, this is my son, and it's Jonathan Taylor Thomas, but it's not the same character.
It's not Randy.
Yeah, no,
his name was Randy.
His name's Randy in the show.
Oh, is it?
Yes, it is.
No, wait. You said he plays two different characters.
Yes.
Does he play Randy as her son or play Randy as the reoccurring
Randy
character?
As her son.
Okay, yeah.
She introduced him. This is my son, Randy.
Yeah, because his name was Randy in Home Improvement.
So I mean, the way that they're setting it up is that she literally Tim
died.
He died.
Yeah, but if she said Tom, is her name Jill? Wait,
no.
What was her name in the show? Was it Jill? Yeah, Jill Taylor.
Yeah. But so I'm watching that. I'm also watching some anime, because I be staying watching anime.
You like
so
your Naruto?
Yeah, but I'm watching
Naruto. How do you say it? How are you supposed to say it?
Naruto.
Okay.
But I'm watching Bleach right now, which is really, really good. And I'm watching that, and then the wife's got me watching Vampire Diaries.
Oh, okay.
I love vampire shows and
I watched the first season of that, and I'm going to admit that I watched the first season of that without being made to watch it.
Yeah,
but
it was a struggle.
What the big deal was. It wasn't that bad. I definitely like Stefan more than Damon. Damon, he's a turd.
Well, Elena, they could do with. I mean, I know she's like the main character, but they could. Well, the writer actually said
she
that
left
in the season 6 or 7 or something
end,
right?
Yeah,
season 6. She comes back at the end of season 8 or something like that. But the writer of the books that these TV shows, they're books that they're based off of, even said that the main characters of her books and the TV show is the Stefan brothers, or the Salvatore brothers.
Right, but the show made it look like she was the main character.
Correct. But it's not. The writer said this, and even when she leaves, it's just them two, that
I have
running
a friend
the show.
that I worked with. Her name was Lauren, and she was obsessed with the show. Yeah. And she also liked Stefan, and she hated Damon and all that. So
it's a good show, but I just can't wait till the main character Elena, Nina DeBrave, leaves. I can't stand her. It's just too much sometimes. Like, you get to the point where you're like, oh god. That's one of those TV shows that I had to stop watching because she got so annoying.
Really?
But yeah, that's pretty much what I'm watching. I started watching some Transformer movies again just because I watched Tax Collector yesterday. And, it got a lot of bad rep for it, but it was actually not bad. It was really not that bad. Now, Shia LaBeouf was getting a little too crazy with the way he was acting because it was like he was trying to act like
when he was legitimately punching out Tom Hardy on the set.
Yeah,
of his other movie.
Yeah, but he plays a pretty good role, but he just lays on a little bit of an accent, and his accent's horrible.
Doesn't land now. No. Do you have anything that you want to watch? Anything that you've seen out there that you haven't watched that you want to watch?
Man, I kind of want to get back into Psych. Watch that again.
Well, and I wanted to, but I've stopped myself because I really want to see if we have time this year to do a podcast on Psych. It would be like an episode by episode thing, like the guys at Justify, the Groundless show.
It takes a long time.
It would, but I mean, you got any plans for the next 10 years? I mean,
10 years, huh?
I'm just saying, we might as well, right? You do. Let's see, there's 16 episodes per season on that show, except for like the last one, I think. And there's, I believe, 6 or 7. Was there 8? I have to look. because I haven't seen it in a while. I know it's like one of my favorite shows, but those last few seasons gets a little jumbled at the end. But anyways, we really enjoyed this movie, so give it a watch. Like you said, if you like Shakespeare movies, remakes, whatever, this is a good retelling of it. It is dated, as a lot of these 90s movies that we're talking about is. But it's worth giving a watch, especially to see Heath Ledger in one of his roles, and I'd say his first American defining role, his first Hollywood movie. Knight's Tale and a bunch of other stuff would follow after that, but. Very good movie. Give it a watch. I don't know if I'd pay money for it, but if it's ever on, give it a watch and, let us know what you think of it if you've already watched it. If you decide to watch it after this, let us know what you think of it. And let us know what your favorite 90s movies, 90s teen movies. We are going to be doing 2 more episodes on 90s teen movies spilling over into February since we had to take a week off. So we're going to get those out to you guys, and you'll see these in these upcoming week. If you guys want to get a hold of us, our Instagram and Facebook is at the Post Credit Podcast. Twitter, we're at the Post Credit, and our email address is thepostcreditpodcast@gmail.com. We also have a website, it's thepostcreditpodcast.com. And we're on YouTube, so look us up there, hit us up, and let us know what your favorites are. We appreciate you guys listening, and we'll see you next time.
And throw me a bone.